we're gonna be talking about this movie that we just saw, like 10 minutes ago, in the theaters called Tarot. It's this, I would say, like lower budget horror movie. You know, there's been a lot of horror movies that have come out recent. That license plate says J and then a bunch of X's. That's cool. It's Virginia. Okay, anyway. So, I'm with Kat. This is
Hi,
Kat. She's
I'm
been
Kat.
on the channel before. And today we're going to be talking about that movie and how
It could have been
not
something.
not of a horror movie it was.
Yeah, before the title even starts, it sets up basically the entire plot of the movie through tarot readings, which I thought would be cool until they rushed everything they set up. And then
Right.
it was like 80% jump scares, 90% jump scares.
Yeah, it was. I did the math on it, and like I'm estimating for every spoilers, by the way, for every death in the movie or like kind of death scene, because not some characters don't die, but like they don't show the characters that don't die, they don't show the death that come back later, things like that. But there's like maybe 3 to 6 jump scares per death, and it's about 20 to 30 jump scares in the whole movie, which means, let's say the runtime is like a minute and 40. That's like one jump scare every 5 or 6 minutes on average. Obviously, it's condensed, but
Which is so unfortunate. Because what ends up happening is it sets up like it's going to be like supernatural kind of a thing. Almost like It Follows, which I haven't seen necessarily, but like I've seen synopses of it and like clips. And you would think, oh, it's this dread or something like following them.
Oh, so you've
And
seen
then-
clips of this movie.
Of It Follows?
Who's It Follows?
Oh, it's
Did I
basically...
miss something completely what you
Oh,
said?
yeah, so It
Okay, sorry,
Follows... It's okay. So It Follows is basically, it's a supernatural STD. And it literally, it follows you.
Right.
And when it gets you, and I thought it was going to be something like that. Like, you're starting to see the, like, horoscope coming true, and then you die. Like, so as it's dawning on them, then they get axed. But no, it just, within the span of, like,
30 seconds.
30 seconds, or even like the scene is so short, like it's just one scene and the entirety of their horoscope happens at once for like the first 2 or 3 characters, and it's so bad. Like slowly they start to get a little bit better, but I think there's only like one good scene, and it's the one for Pax, Paxton, not Paxton.
Just like from a like cinematography horror, like what is scary standpoint, right? It's the only scene in that movie that's different from the rest because it actually has some sort of dread going on. You actually can see the characters' emotions other than like fear. But you know, that brings up another point, is like, how are all the characters reacting to this? Is it due to bad acting? I think a lot of them, it's due to bad acting. Like,
And I think one scene was poorly written.
the
At
first
least.
character that died, spoilers, but I've already said that. But the first character that died, basically what happened is she was just in her like sorority house. She heard like a laugh outside. She went out. Her attic ladder was down. Like someone was up there. She went up there, looked around. No, like there was something there. Someone downstairs. No, something scared her. She fell off the ladder, and then she's just like a zombie, like not fight or flight or anything. She's just like stunned. And then she tries to get her phone, gets pulled, and then killed by the ladder. And then that's it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of setup for a lot of these deaths too, where it's like you know what's going to happen, but they're just teasing it to the point where it's like, get on with it, just kill this character already. We know you're going to do it. Like the ladder, doesn't it fall like 5 or 6 times before it actually crushes
3 to
her?
5 times where it's like it's hitting her each time. The problem with it too is how predictable. I think horror shouldn't be so predictable. We know, you could tell when a character was gonna die or survive. Only one character survived in the movie, like from a tarot reading, like coming true. And that's the character that was developed the most at the beginning of the story. Like, it was the funny character. It was like
It was
the
also
name
like
actor,
the A-list actor.
the A-list actor. It's like, of course they're gonna like
You can't
survive till the end.
Can't kill Jacob, whatever his name is, from Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's the guy from Spider-Man.
Yeah. I love him. He's great.
He was great in the movie, but like, and the acting was bad. I think the reason why, what do you think is really overarching the problem with the movie? And like, does it say something about movies in general? And like,
I think it's just a problem of its time, right? We're living in a time where horror is becoming more mainstream, but people can only palate so much. Like I would say most people, when they go to see a horror film, they're not going to be told something interesting or to have a certain perspective. They're going for the nonsense. Like, they don't care what the plot is. They don't care if the characters are making sense. They just want to go to see stupid people do stupid things and die.
Yeah, it's almost like this kind of, I don't want to say it because it sounds stupid, but like a poser horror fan, like someone that goes to see because like they want to see something scary because they're just turned 14 and like it's like rebellious or something, or
it's not even like a poser horror. It's
corporate horror.
I've never seen a horror film, and I'm not necessarily a fan of horror. I don't know anything about horror. I'm just going to have a good time.
Don't you like Five Nights at Freddy's?
Well, I do.
You've seen a horror film.
No, this
is Five Nights at Freddy's horror?
I think it's horror if you've never played a Five Nights at Freddy's game. If you have, then it's
the
not.
first game is generally scary, like genuine. I played it in I've never played the first game, but I've played it in Geometry Dash. You can be surprised. The new update on Geometry Dash, they literally recreated the game. It looks exactly like the game.
I feel like the first.
But it's genuinely terrifying.
I feel like it's not. I feel like it's stressful, but I would say the jump scares are silly, and I would say that
the jump scares are silly.
Like, I feel like it's just kind of silly. I don't know. I mean, when I was 10, it was scary, but that's because I'd never experienced anything horror, and I was also being subjected to it against my will. So. Okay,
like, I think it was just, when I first saw like a playthrough of it, I had nightmares, and I would like think that like these animatronics, and it's a creepy thing. The premise is there's these animatronics that come to life at night. Like there's plenty of something there. People have fears of like mannequins, or like I always had a fear of like when you go to Disneyland or something, and like there's the people dressed up as the characters.
Yeah. Or like when the animatronics do actually malfunction, and then you've just got like Elsa with their jaw.
Yeah, I've always had a fear of that, and like Five Nights at Freddy's. Well, it's not the best good example of horror. I feel like it's something that's.
I feel like the lore is scary. Yeah.
The lore is scary, and it's just
also
good story. But what I want to say here is, I'm using it as an example because everyone knows it, right?
Right.
And I feel like if you compare it to something like that, and if we compare it to the movie, I don't remember the movie, it was all a blur. But if we compare it to like what horror is doing in that game versus what horror is doing in this movie, Tarot, like they're two completely different things. Yes, there are jump scares in both. Yes, but there's no dread.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad horror movie. I think it's just a bad movie. And thus it suffers as a
movie.
Yes,
I think it's not a horror movie.
I think it is a bad horror movie, in part because it is a bad movie. Because these characters do not exist outside of the movie. And when you're creating a world that you want people to be invested in, especially in horror where you want people to be like, oh no, I'm worried that character X is going to die. Which you have to have characters that have backstories. Not just like the one chick, like the main chick whose her mom died, and so she wears the hospital wristband of her mom on her wrist because she's super mentally ill. Right? It means nothing. We know they go to school, but we don't know what school. We don't know what their jobs are. We don't know anything about their families. We don't know. There's nothing. There is nothing there. We know they're friends, and that they're sad when one dies.
Okay, and one thing that we should pay attention to is like, think about the premise in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, how it starts. We don't see an animatronic like kill someone until like a decent way in the movie.
Well, you see it in the opening.
Okay, well that's just to show you what the movie's gonna be about.
Right.
I think it's different. It's just like, oh, it's a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Animatronic goes
scary.
I think
Love him.
I think no, but like when you have the character Josh Hutcherson, whatever his name is, Mike Schmidt.
It's Mike. Yeah, it's Mike.
It's Schmidt.
Yeah, it's Schmidt.
It's not Mike Afton.
No.
That's the difference.
Yeah, Mike.
Anyway,
but is Mike Schmidt Mike Afton?
We have so much build up. There's build up, and there's a character going on. He's struggling. You know, you feel bad for him. You have the way to sympathize with him. That isn't like, oh, my mother got sick and I did tarot because like I was trying to like figure out how she couldn't die, and then but then it happened anyway. And we don't see that theme repeat in the movie ever. Like that you can't change fate because then you can, but then you can't, but then you can't. You know, it's like it's so backwards.
They don't try. They don't try to change their fate at all until like the very end of the movie. Until like
it's weird.
The final
it's
act.
Puppets. It's like these characters aren't actually characters. They're not real people living in this environment.
The thing that bothered me the most, I think, is when Paxton's character, there's a scene where they're on a bridge and they're in the car and they're leading up to the Pisces death. I don't actually know her name, but I just know she's a Pisces. And Paxton is in the car like, wait, my whole thing was like, I'll die boxed up, which, I mean, I'm in a car. I would love a good important too. Thank you. And then he immediately forgets all these epiphanies he has made about his tarot reading and decides to go holed up in his room like an idiot. And it's just so out of character because he's been so in touch, like so invested in this, the tarot readings are killing this thing. But then, I guess he sees his friend get hanged on the bridge and it's like, I'm out. Like, and it's so...
And then also the character, the tall guy, who like the love interest, like the fallout.
Yeah.
He also had that kind of character fluidity, like Oil, where it's like...
Switched. They almost like switched.
They all switched.
Characters.
Like, first of all, he's like, nah, you guys are crazy. Then he's like, this is real. And then they go see the lady, he's like, nah, you guys are crazy. Then after, he's like, okay, this is real. And then he's like, nah, you guys are crazy.
So I would say for him, like, it's a little more, like, it was like that, which I didn't like, that it was like, because they had to rush, because it wasn't a longer movie. I almost feel like it would have been better as a TV series. If they had more time. Like, they needed more time.
And more money.
And
can I say something?
Yeah.
Give me a second. I want to dive into this idea of having consequences for your actions. The consequence of reading the tarot cards was that the friends would die. Obviously they saved the day in the end, but still friends died.
I think they should have died in, like, I think at the end of the movie, they should have all still died.
No, I don't see a way that could ever work. But, okay, so, consequences of your actions.
That's just because I want to see him die.
In this group of characters, there's one guy who thinks it's all, like, fake. Like, there's no way this is real. We should have seen, at some point, consequences for those beliefs. Like, obviously it was real. The movie was real. So, because of that, he should have had this kind of blunt, cold realization that, like, it is real, and that never happened in the movie.
No,
there was no...
It's implied, but, like, I don't want it to be implied. I want you to...
Was it even implied?
Like,
he's like, oh yeah, face your demons. But, like, that reaction was comparable to every other character's reaction.
Yeah, we have, like, pre-bridge him and post-bridge him. Like, when there's something crawling on his car, then he's like, oh, dang. Like, we saw something. And I would have loved to hear, like, someone point out, wait, you're on board with this now? And maybe they did? Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah, so Paxton's, like, straight up like, I thought you weren't believing in any of this stuff. But then we never get him saying, like, yeah, until we saw something on my car. We never get that moment. We never get that moment of why he has changed. And we don't really get to understand why Paxton is all of a sudden like, I'm out. Because it just doesn't feel like his character. Right? Also, the acting is just bad. And so it's hard to tell what they're feeling and what they're thinking. It kind of just feels like they're reading lines and looking generally panicked the entire time.
And another thing is, a movie should be relatable in some way. The characters should feel real. And they can do that by making characters realistic. But not everything has to be so realistic, obviously. But there should be realistic to some extent to make it feel like, hey, we're watching a movie, but this is also like wow, this is like affecting me emotionally or whatever, because that's what the art does.
Right.
I don't feel that happened in the movie. And to give an example of that, like, we don't see any repercussions of these deaths happening. So I think the most unrealistic one is the girl who was hanged.
Mm-hmm.
We see police earlier in the movie, but there's just that tiny window of cooldown period before another death happened. We don't see that ever happen again. It's just all of a sudden, okay, I'm out of here. But like, they just saw their friend got hanged.
Yeah, the deaths.
Are they gonna hold on?
Sorry.
Are they going to tell some authority, or how is the authority going to find out? Otherwise, it's going to look like a murder or something like that. Like, there's no realism for that. We don't see them trying to explain to the police that it was supernatural. We don't see anything that's like the characters making decisions in their head on what they're going to do, other than just making decisions just to advance the story. Like, the decisions are already chosen for them.
Right. I also didn't like that she put horoscope in Google, and like the second thing that came up was what they needed. Like, that was kind of
with
dumb.
no ads. It was a PDF with no ads on the website.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened before?
I mean, if she was using Google Scholar, maybe.
She wasn't though. Google Scholar doesn't
show.
show image results. It shows like,
Yeah.
it shows reputable sources.
Like,
for that kind of situation.
if she had known about this person and had been like, I know what I'm doing, and then we see her like type in the name, that would have been kind of cool. Like, if she already, because she's already done.
Right,
a
they
lot of
just
research.
Google and then so for context, in case you haven't seen the movie, there's this. Sorry.
No, I'm not at you. At the movie. That face is at the movie.
So for context, in the movie, basically what it is when they find out that the horoscopes, like they kind of piece together, oh, maybe these random deaths are happening because of something that we did, which was obvious to anyone who had. And they think there's days in between these events. Of course, they're going to think of this. They're going to think, oh yeah, that tarot reading that we did. I guess maybe they're all drunk or something. They wouldn't remember as well.
Yeah. So they were very drunk. It is set up. It is set
I need to
up
get
that.
the thing I was going to say.
Okay, sorry. You do that then, and then I'll talk about that. Because I actually have nice things to say.
So then basically what it is after 2 deaths, they say, okay, maybe this is happening. They look it up on Google, find this lady who like lives 3 hours away that, you know, might be able to help. You know, they drive, find her. She explains to them like, oh, people die from this one deck that like this lady. It basically gives the lore drop, which for this movie, it's something to really dive into. What is this like? What is this trying to say? Like, there's this lady who just got angry one time and then like put her soul into this deck so that she could just kill people. Like, what is it doing from a story writing standpoint?
I think what that is doing is the bare minimum. Thank you. Because again, this movie is very much the bare minimum, except for like I would say the opening, like pre-title card.
I like it when
I liked it because it felt like it was setting up something more. They gave a reason for them to be rummaging around the old house instead of them just rummaging around. Sure, it was dumb. They drank all the booze. Sure. But in the cinematography, like, it was funny. It was goofy. It was setting up, like, OT. Like, basically, almost my entire commentary throughout the whole movie was hee-hee because it was just so goofy and dumb. But at the beginning, like, they're like, oh, yeah, we're looking through the house for alcohol. And then they end up in the weird room. And then the one girl happens to know about tarot. Which I would have liked a different reason why she knew tarot, but whatever. Like her mom, even like if her mom did tarot, and then when her mom got sick, she started, like, that would have been cool-ish.
maybe.
I don't know. It would have at least given more backstory. But the point is, there was stuff going on in the introductions. And I don't know. I feel like it was setting up for a different, more engaging movie.
I want to bring up another piece of media for this, just to compare it to the video game Until Dawn, which I've played through and I love. What is that doing from a story writing and horror standpoint, and how is it different, and how does it do what it does so well? I love that game. I think it's an amazing story. Probably the best horror story or any story game I've ever played. Not that I've played very many, but just like I don't feel like anything's gonna beat it anytime soon. Anyway, in the beginning of the game, this isn't spoilers for you in case you want to play it, because it's gonna happen at the beginning anyway. Like it's not really.
Right. I've seen the
Basically, what happens is like these characters have this conflict between each other, which is makes them feel so much more real. It makes them like actually like they're actually experiencing something that isn't as outside of the horror. Another thing about horror is like realizing that what's actually going on. In the movie Tarot, there's no figuring out what happened. It's just like it's okay, they did this thing, oh, that's what's happening, and that's it. There's no like, wait, what's going on here? In Until Dawn, there's like build up to like the characters all have this different experience. Every character is having a different experience of what's happening, and they're trying to piece together a story together. That being said, the beginning in Until Dawn, it shows this thing happening that's just a traumatic experience, which is like the twin sisters dying because of a prank that the friends pulled. Like
it's just a prank. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like that kind of thing is like this conflict between the characters that's gonna motivate and drive the story along, because at the end of the day they're gonna find out what happened to the sisters, and then like, you know, because the characters don't know that. Obviously the player does, but the characters don't know that, so they have to like figure that out, and that figuring out is what makes the story interesting. How are the characters going to figure out what's going to happen in between? What sacrifices they're going to make? Sacrifices.
Yeah.
In the movie Tarot, there's this whole thing, and the tarot reading for one guy is like, you have to make a sacrifice in order to make something left. Did we ever see that happen? There was not a single sacrifice in the movie.
I would argue that is not true. He started fighting off the devil thing.
He didn't fight it.
No.
He's like, I gotta fight it, and then it like took his feet, and then they all started pulling him into hell.
Yeah.
But then I guess he got out somehow.
The thing that bothers me the most is that even after the lady is dead, certain prophecies still come true, which implies that tarot readings in general are real, not just this one deck, which has implications for the whole universe,
which I think
which they don't
is the
investigate.
But that is the most solid thing for the story.
Yeah.
That like, okay, the tarot readings are coming true, but not in a cursed, like, we're all gonna die way, but like in a way that's like, this makes sense.
Yeah, but they never comment on it.
They do comment on it.
It was like, oh,
when the car pulls up, he's like, this is my tarot reading coming true.
Right, but they're like, oh, well, we killed her, so it's done. But nobody's like, yeah, but this came true, so like, is it over? Which I guess then that would lead to like a setup for a sequel, which would be stupid, and I wouldn't want that.
They won't make a sequel.
Oh, I hope not.
And they won't make a sequel with, unless they're very commercially successful, which a lot of these aren't. These like Blumhouse movies or Lionsgate, where they just pump out every month a new horror film.
Which is so sad.
Horror film.
Because Blumhouse can make good stuff. They have made good stuff.
It's just the money. It really comes down to money thing. I mean, like, I don't know if it's horror, but like Megan.
Megan was Blumhouse, and I've heard it was good.
There's that one about the pool, with like that creature in the pool.
Yeah, that actually makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm not saying, I don't think
it makes me uncomfortable, but it's like, is this story gonna be a story about how this one thing, or is it gonna be like, oh, jump scare, oh, someone dies, like Jaws? Because like,
yeah,
I don't know, Jaws. Okay, there's a good piece of media. Jaws. It shows this thing. Here's the villain. It shows it something at the beginning. There's a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it shows this character arc. In character arcs, not just character development, but like how a character is reacting and overcoming something. That never happens in Tarot. That never happens.
Yeah,
there's no character arc.
There's no characters. They are just vessels for gore and for jump scares. They're not.
There wasn't very much gore. It was blood, but there wasn't gore.
Yeah, there's no gore. Which, for me, actually, no. Like, even the thing that should, like, there's this one scene where, like, the last death, like, this girl gets cut open, and it goes on for so stupid long. Like, she's in a box.
It does go on for too
and they're
long.
like, and it's like, they could have done, duh, 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 and then just, like, gone in for it, and then you would have been like, because you know what's going to happen. You know she's going to die. Like, they even have time to show the other characters listening to her dying, which if they had, like, as it's over, then they could have, like, oh, they heard that. Wow, they were, but that would have been fine-ish. But there's this scene, like, well, then at the end, like, the magician opens up the box and people, like, clap. And I guess they can't show...
Because it's PG-13. They can't show gore. I don't think that,
But
even then, I don't think they needed to show that, but think about it from character standpoint. The one character thing I liked was when the main girl, which I don't even think they name. I don't even remember. Let's just call her,
she has a name. I saw it in the
Let's call her Velma. So Velma is, like, experiencing death, right, attacking her, and she gets this close to dying, and then Fred, let's just say, saves her from it. This like character interaction. Those two characters have had history together, and then now we're seeing a character shift. And that's like the one takeaway of the movie that I did like, is these characters interacting with each other. Yeah. I did this smoochy, but I didn't mean it like that.
It's almost like if they had let the characters be people and interact, it would have been better. Like, there's just certain things where it's like, there were scenes where, for me, maybe not for you, I was like, wow, that would have been really impactful if it was in a better movie. Like, the end where she's, like, releasing the...
yeah.
Like,
there wasn't much
like,
build up or anything. It was like the idea of it came like 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what if I did the tarot reading on her 5 minutes ago? Then 5 minutes later, she does it, and then so it's over. You know, it's like, oh, I just came with this random idea. Usually, like, random ideas don't work in horror movies, you know, and they go south, and something worse happens.
Which, I mean, that did kind of happen when they called the lady who knew stuff over.
It did work though. Oh, to burn it, but then she just showed up like.
Yeah, but then she showed up, and
one death later. I mean.
So they tried to burn the deck, it didn't work.
Oh yeah, she
then
did
they tried.
Die.
So there was the 1, 2, 3 thing where they try 2 things and it doesn't work, and then the third thing they try works, which is a very classic trope in basically everything. Which was fine. I even kind of liked the old lady's death. Like, I was sad she was dead because she was a good character, but again, they did that thing where the movie talks down to their audience and thinks they're stupid. So we have this scene where, like, she's being held by the ghost that's in the deck. I cannot remember what they call her. And she's like, I can't move. And it's like, oh no, she can't move. Like, I personally liked that. I don't know. And then she's getting...
forced to me.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like her explaining what's going on. I don't want her to explain everything. But it's hard to show, like, I can't move. That's kind of, like, other than her not moving, but I don't know. But then the box knocks over and all the cards are strewn into the thing, into the circle or whatever, and I immediately jump in my seat because I know what's about to happen, and I thought it was cool. And then you asked what's going on, and I think, didn't I say, oh, don't worry, they're going to explain it to you in a second?
And then she dies, which explains it enough.
No, she straight up said, she's reading my tarot. It's like, no, she's reading your tarot so that she'll die. If they just, like... If she would just let it happen, then we would have been like, oh. And then people who didn't immediately get it would have been like, oh.
Okay, so the thing about character interactions, back to what I was saying about before, is, like, why I like that one scene so much, is because it shows a development, a change. And that change shows... that something different is going to happen in the movie, right? If every character stays the same, they're all going to die. It's in a good story, I think, in order for them to save the day or whatever, the characters have to change how they're acting, in order to save the day, right? Or like not die. And that was set up at the beginning. They read everyone's tarot. They said what's going to happen and how you're supposed to avoid it. And obviously some people are going to fail, which I think that's fine. But I don't think very many people, and if they did, it wasn't very clear or in-depth enough for it to be overcome. For example, what's the character's name, the one we like? Paxton. What saves him, his tarot reading was that, like, he would be boxed in, and they're just gonna feel like there's no escape, and then he's gonna pull through when people aren't expecting it.
But every time,
but everyone was expecting it who watched the movie, so that's the difference. So it actually didn't come true, because I was expecting it. Were you expecting it?
Expecting him to live?
Yeah.
Well, on a meta standpoint, I was expecting him to live.
That's meta.
Like on the meta of this is their selling point. If you kill him off, then everyone's gonna be ticked at you.
So okay, so the thing I was saying was basically. Hold on, let me think of this. Brain fart. So, what causes him not to die is his roommate shows up out of nowhere and opens the elevator, and he just lives. It's so random.
It is random, but it does line in with the tarot reading. Whenever a door closes, another door opens. The door opened again before he could die.
It's so literal, and that's another critique I have with this movie. Is it's so literal. When you see the first person die, 8 minutes into the movie, or let's just say 15, because there's a little bit of build up, and that it's so literal. You think, what's actually going on here? Is this really what the movie's gonna be about? Like, these people, I'm watching these like mannequins get killed in different ways, and then you're thinking, okay, there's gonna be this happen, but then there's gonna be something that's gonna is a payoff for this. There's a reason why this is happening other than just the face value. And then you watch the movie and figure out, no, it's just face value what's happening. The twist wasn't alluded to in any point of the movie. The way they're gonna save the day was just like a random burst that in this girl's head. There's no reason why she's thinking this. There's no backstory behind it. There's no motive other than maybe this will work, and then they try it and it works.
Yeah, I think the whole point of it was like, because the scene after the bridge, that was the trailer for the movie. And it's coming true in ways we never could have predicted. Right, blah blah blah. Because usually tarot readings are very figurative, and so you use figurative language. But then it was all taken so literally, which I think, I don't know. I think it was more like the demoness thing, not demoness, whatever her name is, ghost, being like, oh, I can work with that.
Right, I can see that being the thing, and maybe that's a interesting like take from that, is like it being literal.
I feel like if they had said that, like, tarot readings are supposed to be figurative, why is this all happening literally? Like, again, if they had, the movie was so surface level.
It was so surface level, and it if you're trying to find any meaning in the movie, trying to see if this movie's saying anything, I think you're gonna find that the movie isn't saying anything, and that's really my main takeaway from this video. So, anything else you want to say before we wrap it up here? Because I think we've said enough.
Probably.
About how this movie's. We could go on and on.
I could, and I probably will after
and we probably don't need to.
We don't need to. But I probably will.
Just because if you watch it for yourself, you'll probably come up with your own criticisms. Maybe you like the movie. Hey, if you watched it and you liked it, explain why. I'd love to hear it.
And also, please know, you're allowed to like movies that aren't good. Like, that's fine.
I love movies that aren't good, but like it's because of some other reason, you know.
Right.
From a story standpoint, this movie isn't saying anything. It's not saying anything other than it exists to make money, and like that's really what we're getting out of it. Is it's a way to sell tickets in the box office, and hey, they made $20 off of us. So
yeah,
guess they got there.
Yeah.
And there was no one in theater. We're the only two people there, and this movie's fairly recent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a brand new movie. Two people there. So anyway, without further ado, thank you so much for joining me, Kat.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining me, viewers, which there may or may not be some. And I'll see you tomorrow or the next day if I forget to do a video. Or the next day if I forget to do another video. Bye-bye.
Bye.